I'm just excited to be talking to you today.
Me too. I'm so happy to have you on today. Um, Today we cover a topic that is really one that means a lot to the heart of God, and that is, life. The Bible tells us that He knew us before we were in our mother's womb, that He had a purpose and plan for every single baby. There's no mistakes. It's not an accident. He has great plans for every single person. There's all these little I just imagine these little sperms swimming up, and there's that one that makes it. That's not an accident. God has a purpose. Your gender is not an accident. Who you become is not an accident. When you were born, how you were born, it's all part of God's purpose.
Right.
But the enemy, he wants to lie to us and tell us to give up. If he can't get rid of us in the womb, then he'll try at some other point in our life to get rid of us. Um, the Bible says, he's here to steal, kill, and destroy, and he's the father of lies. So everything about him is, catered to ending life.
Yes.
But God, he died for life. He's here for life. He creates life. He gives life, and every life matters.
I think when you just said, like, if he can't end it in the womb, he will try to end it when you're out. And I think of that made me think of all the suicide rates that have gone up with middle schoolers and high schoolers. Like, he is after our children. And if he can't get to have these babies aborted before they come because they're made in God's likeness, there's so much potential and destiny and unique purpose in each one, then he's coming after them at 10, 11, 12, and succeeding in getting them to end their lives over. Literally, I read about a teenager that committed suicide because their Snapchat streak was broken. Like, he's finding ways to end those lives. I, like you, believe that God chooses our our gender, our eye shape, our hair color, like, he weaves us in the womb, and there is purpose and destiny in that. Um, and every life is sacred. And to think that a life is sacred at 9 months, but not at 6 months, doesn't make sense to me. Um, a life is sacred when it comes together and it begins to grow. Like, you can go buy a seeded plant at the nursery in your town, and that this is going to grow into this, but you buy it as a seeded plant, and it's already a plant to you, it's already a life. But yet there can be the growings of a human in someone's body, and they don't see that as human life. It's the science and everything makes no sense. And then when you think about abortion and all that we know about how it's done, and what is that Justice for the Five, where they just found those aborted babies, and, like, you can't turn away from it. You can't ignore the reality that those are infants, that those are babies that have this potential beautiful life. I think it's I know some women do it, you can say that's poverty or desperation, but I think a lot of women do it out of selfishness because they don't want to deal with it, and they don't want to think about that being a person. They don't want to think about it being their responsibility. But statistically, the rates of depression and this almost post-traumatic stress that happens after abortion, there's so much proof that it's actually harming their emotional well-being to have these abortions, and to not, the way they cope with it after has not been great. So they'll parade on the news those that have had them and think it's great healthcare, but they won't talk to the women who have struggled, who then get married and then can't have children, or feel the guilt of having this child but they don't have a sibling. It's it's really awful. And especially with my situation, especially with adoption, especially with my daughter whose birth dad wanted her to be aborted. That's that's sad isn't even the word. It's heartbreaking, because that's what I think abortion, a lot of it is built on, is I don't want it. It doesn't really fit in my life. And God is like, but I made it, you know? So, especially with our situation, I couldn't be more for protecting the lives of these babies, all of them, because they are sacred and holy and made in God's image. And we don't, and I think it's murder, honestly, when someone chooses to end that life, especially with what we're hearing about extending that time. There's the value of human life is coming down in the world, and you can see that on many avenues. But abortion and this Roe v. Wade and all that, that is a huge part of it.